Hey guys, welcome to this awesome video. I'm gonna do something, I'm bringing something back. Actually, I'm bringing two things back. I used to do a series sequence that I called Your Healthy Dose of Vitamin D Grant because, well, it's just a fun way to play on my name. And also, the idea of being a ray of sunshine and bringing light into the world is something that is empowering and encouraging. And those are my number one that is my number one love language. So today I want to bring you a healthy dose of vitamin D Grant, but do it in a different way. So the other thing that I'm bringing back is something that I used to do a long time ago that I called Hero of the Week. And it was a way for me to showcase people that I know personally in my community that are doing awesome things throughout the world so that you can know who they are too. And if you happen to know them personally, you can join me in thanking them and applauding them for being an awesome human being. Now, there's a chance some of you guys don't know my good friend Kristen Brown, but what I'm doing now is I'm bringing this whole Hero of the Week thing back, but it's not going to be a Hero of the Week type thing. I'm calling this Ray of Sunshine because everybody that has made an impact on my life has been like a ray of sunshine in bringing more light, bringing more love, bringing more promise, bringing more hope and more encouragement to my inner garden, and then helping me become a even better version of myself. So I asked my friend Kristen to join me, and she's actually the very first ray of sunshine guest that I'm having for this little sequence that we're going to do. But I just want to begin, Kristen, by thanking you for who you are, for your friendship, for the ways that you always, and always is not hyperbole, always is like a fact. You always show up as this wonderful, caring, actively listening, loving, vibrant, wise presence. You give and give and give. You give of your time even when you have absolutely no time because your schedule is chock full of a million other different things and responsibilities. You always show up for your friends. You provide incredible encouragement to every single person that I've ever heard you speak with. And I think from our very first conversation, what was it, almost 2 years ago on Wisdom? The moment that you brought me onto your stage and let me just talk with you, I knew I'm going to be friends with this woman. If
Yeah.
I have to like knock down her door and be like, you're going to be my friend because you're awesome and I'm awesome, so let's be awesome friends. But fortunately, I didn't have to knock down your door, it just happened. But I appreciate who you are, Kristen. I appreciate your energy, I appreciate your light, I appreciate your love. I am absolutely loving your book. This is
Thank you.
Kristen's brand new book. It's called The Recovering People Pleaser: A Spiritual Guide to Reclaim Your True Worth and Attract the Love You Deserve. Now, so much stuff that you talk about in this book are things that I went through and learned about in my own healing process of overcoming codependency after going through divorce. But I'm still, it's like I'm relearning things that I've known and then getting to see it from a different perspective. Your way of speaking in this book sounds exactly like the way that you communicate when we have conversations. Like I'm this sounds like you're talking to me through your writing, and I love that because that's the way that I communicate too. And so I know I've been talking for a long time. I just wanted to shower you with praise, my friend. Thank you
I
so
feel
much.
it. I don't even know what to say, Dee. That is probably one of the sweetest, kindest testimonials someone's ever said to me, and I really appreciate that. And you and I, we were fast friends. We bonded very quickly. We speak very similar languages, and likewise to you, Dee. There's not one conversation that I don't listen to either in our personal lives or on the Wisdom app or on your videos that I don't glean something from you too. You're a beautiful light in the world. And I feel like we really bonded over our own inner healing. It's very similar. So we speak differently. And that's one thing I've said about you all the time. Every single time I talk to you on Wisdom was you are so articulate. I love your use of words and language. So thank you for having me on here. This is very, very, really fun. And like, wow, I didn't expect that. So I'm kind of like,
Well, I've really got just one question for you. Um, Now, obviously, to write a book titled The Recovering People Pleaser implies that people pleasing codependency was a part of your life and probably something that caused. I know you personally, so this isn't like I'm
Yeah.
guessing here, but for
Yeah.
those of you guys that don't know her, like when you come into the realization that people pleasing and codependency has been a huge part of your life, you look back on your relationships and you see them differently because it makes you more aware of it wasn't just this other person that was doing all of these things to you. It was so much of the way that you saw yourself, and that inner narrative, that self concept was being reflected back through the relationship. But what you have done with your life and what you do with your work and through your practice and everything, you took not just one, you took several really sad stories and you revamped them. I'm big on storytelling and
Hmm.
on rewriting the story. You rewrote the story of your life, and not just for yourself. Now you are helping other people by shining your light into other people. So my question is, what is the story that led you to say, "You know what? I can't just go through this transformation for myself. I want to use what I've been through to help other people." What's the story that led to that realization?
Wow. Really, the story that led to that realization was a one particular moment when I had been doing this healing work for a couple of years. I had vowed to remain single and celibate after what I call my tsunami. It was just my whole life was wiped out based on the behaviors and actions of my second husband. And I vowed to remain single and celibate. I'm like, I'm not having another relationship till I figure this out. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a coach. I just was listening to my higher self. I was listening to God. I was reading like crazy. But most importantly, Dee, is I was implementing. I was implementing practices into my life. And there was one defining moment where I was walking in my house. And if you've read the book, you've read this defining moment in there where this one guy that I had been emotionally hung up on, even though we were not dating anymore, he had messaged me. And the old Kristen would have been very desperate for that communication and that validation, and maybe even tried to get him to see me. And because I was still hung up on him. And I looked at my phone, I saw the text. I was walking in my mother's house, at my purse on, I was carrying the stuff, and I flipped open my StarTAC. That's how long ago this was, those flip phones. And I went organically and naturally, I was like, I don't need to respond to that. And I shut my phone and I went to take another step and I stopped. And I went, what just happened? I noticed that this was just a massive shift from old Kristen, previous Kristen. And I stopped and I asked myself, I said, what just happened here? Why did you do that? And the answer was because I healed my self worth. I realized that I didn't have this punch mechanism, this default of, oh, can somebody please give me attention and validate me and make me feel like I'm loved and worthy? I already had that, which changed my behavior organically. And it wasn't something I need to answer. This was nothing that was contrived. It was nothing that was like, oh, I'm going to get you back. It was just, no, I don't need to respond to that. But the most important thing I did in that moment is I hugged myself. I
Hmm.
wrapped my arms around my body and I was like, I sat in that moment and I anchored into it by doing something physical to my body. And I said, you're doing it. Something's changing. Keep going.
Hmm.
And I kept going. And then all of a sudden, I thought, I want to write a book. I got to share this with people. Like, we don't have to suffer. There's a way. And that's what was like the defining moment of when I decided to do this type of work.
That's awesome. What an empowering story. Your awareness turning on and recognizing that, wait, this isn't the way that I normally do things. Oh my God, I've actually changed. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I resonate with that so much.
So huge. It's important that we take time on our journey because a lot of times, even through coaching clients, that they've been working really hard with me, and like 6 months later, they're not out of the woods yet, but they don't see the change that has happened. And they'll say, when is this going to get better? And I'll go, whoa, ho, 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 ho. Let's slow down. Let's go back just February. Remember when you came here? Oh my God. I'm like, look at where you're at now. And they sit in this astounded place of, oh my gosh, something is changing. So this healing happens slowly over time. There's never going to be a fanfare. There's never going to be a marching band and fireworks display. None of that happens. It's this subtle shift where you're just going to notice that you're doing something differently in an improved way, in a way that's more peaceful and grounded in your higher self and your best self.
Mm.
That's where the shift happens. And it's so important that we take note of that because we're changing all the time. But a lot of times we get caught up in the head and what we want to happen. We're so focused on getting the thing, whatever it might be, career, relationship, whatever it might be, that we're not paying attention to this beautiful evolution that we're in. But it's in that moment of recognition that we actually, it fortifies the trajectory. It actually fortifies it and keeps us going in that direction.
I'm so glad you said that because before we started the recording, I was sharing a little bit about how there's been a lot of hermitage in my life over the past year and a half or so. And for a while, I resisted that because I've been a very like outgoing, social, just about everybody knows who I am kind of person, making my rounds and whatnot. And God really was like, look, dude, you want to become the person that you're destined to be? All right, well, I'm going to put you on an island in the desert, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
And this is where you're going to do the if you've seen Creed 2, you know that when Creed goes to fight Victor Drago the second time, Rocky takes him out to the desert, away from all the spotlight, away from all of the fanfare, and like in the sweltering heat with a bunch of, grimy, like tough people. And that's where he prepares for the war. And I feel like in a way that's been what my inner journey has required me to have, and I wasn't willing to do that willingly. So the divine's like, well, I'm going to take you out. You're going to contact some people. They're not going to get back to you because I don't want you to have contact with them right now. I want you to go through this process. And what I'm discovering in my own life, and God reminds me of this fairly regularly,
Mhm.
um, for me, reminding like, just look back 4 months ago. Look back to what your state was. The
Yeah.
things that you're doing now would scare you, but you don't have fear like that anymore. You are strong, you are confident, you are prepared, you're not reacting to the situations of things. You're so much more at peace. This is the transformation. For all the things for me, and I think this is true for all of us. And like you said, Kristen, we're going through this process of growth and we're going through this process of transformation. And my God keeps reminding me, this isn't about getting to a destination.
Yeah.
The process is the process is the fun, and the process is the prize. It's the reward. And also the process is the preparation. Because when I get to the end goals, and there's a multitude of them. When you get to the end goals of the things that you're working towards, that's not the end destination. Then there's another place to go. But to get to that other place that's next in line, you have to have had the preparation that has gotten you to where you get to. And then everything builds on itself. So one of the things that you do so well in your you do it really well in your book, you do it really well in your podcast, you do it really well, exceptionally well in conversations like this when you are in a somewhat public place and you get to have dialogue with other people. But you remind us that we are growing and we are moving, and I don't want to say it's subtle because it's not, you're very overt with the way that you do it, but the way that you frame encouragement, and you I think it has so much to do with one of your big strengths, Kristen, is you're such an active listener.
Mm.
And not only are you actively listening by being quiet and like receiving the information, but like you are taking the time to understand and think about what it is that you're receiving before you just instinctively respond. And
Yes.
so I'm curious about like what has shifted in you in your ongoing transformation process that allows you to have this inner safety and ability to receive without absorbing, but also discern so quickly what's going on. And then, because you and I have had some, uh, you and I have had some conversations with a lot of vulnerability, and your ability to communicate back to me exactly what it was that I was having a really hard time with. And like you have this um sniper pinpoint accuracy with the way that you express things.
I love
Like
that.
what has been maybe one of the keys for you to be able to have this kind of discernment and then also know exactly how to communicate the most encouraging, but at sometimes, because you've said like, hey, can I be really honest and direct? But even in your honest and direct, like you're not like sucker punching with that. So is that something that like has always been a part of your personality, or has that been something you've been growing into?
This is a question I ask myself a lot because I've had many people say exactly what you're saying. They're like, "You nail it, Kristen. Like you see beyond the veil. You see what we don't see." So I've questioned that because in my youth I thought everybody did. So I will say I think this is just something that cultivated inside of me because I've always been extremely intuitive. I've had a, really good connection with my source, my higher power, the energy of the cosmos, and I trusted it and listened because I spent a lot of time alone as a kid, not in a neglectful way, but just I spent a lot of time and God was my playmate. So one of the things is that I could just feel things, what was really happening. I could feel what I call capital T truth. Like I could see beyond the veil and see that thing. But in my youth, I would share that with people because I thought we all did this because it was part of me. So I was projecting that the world did this, but people didn't like it because I saw too much of them. And they were like, oh my God, don't. So then I kind of was like, oh, what's wrong? Something's wrong with me. So I started to really get quiet about it and I would just really observe. And then it just would always present that it was indeed that thing. And when I presented it to people that I asked permission of, that's what shifted for me because I used to
Mhm.
just say, you know what's happening? This is what's happening. And I said it so joyfully and lovingly that when I was met with that, I was like, so my joy and love is wrong. I didn't know how to interpret that when I was young. But then I decided, well, as I grew and I learned more about the ego and people and where they're at, and we're all at so many different spaces on our journeys, that it's not up to us to impose information on somebody. It's best serves when we ask permission. So like you said, I'll say, can I speak freely? Can I say this? And the majority of my friends, like are like you now, where they're like, yes, please, I really want that. And are open and receptive to it. And they receive or they don't. And they say, yes, that's it, or no, it's not, whatever. It's not up to me to decide. But to answer your question, I've also been what I call a researcher of human nature. I have a PhD in researching human nature without literally going to school because I just paid attention and I started noticing patterns in people. I started to pay attention to shame and unworthiness, how people were playing small. I watched emotions. I paid attention to the emotions in men, what men were sharing, what they were not sharing. Just so many different nuances came together. And I got to tell you that the same thing that I'm doing now at this age, I was doing in my 20s. Because I remember I was a hairdresser for 30 years and I'm in my 20s and the 44-year-old come in and tell me what's going on. And because I was doing hair, I was kind of, if you ever watch Tyler Henry, who's a medium, he scribbles while he's
Okay.
doing his, yeah, and then he starts to kind of channel. Well, me doing hair was kind of the same way because my attention is somewhere else and I would just start speaking stuff, not thinking anything of it. And then they would come back to me. This is people that are 20 years older than me and saying, I took your advice. I did that thing, whatever it was, and it worked and it was great. And I'd say, what did I tell you? Like I didn't remember because I was just in my natural mode. So I believe that active listening that you're talking about is when I'm in spirit, when I'm truly in spirit, I'm just really here to serve. It's not about me talking. It's about me listening. I think listening is the most important thing that we can actually do in communication because if we can listen through our higher selves and listen to the nuances and the energy and what's really happening behind the scenes of the words, we're going to get so much more information than we hear three words and people jump all over us, because I've had that in my own life where I'm really trying to be understood and I start a sentence and I'm 5 words in and I'm being spoken over because the person has already done the math and determined what it is, or is projecting something through themselves. And I realize how much that just doesn't serve. So the more that we can truly listen with our entire body, not only hear with our ears and discern with the words, but feel the energy of what's being said, then when we come from our higher self, we're going to come from a better place. We're going to come from a higher place where we can really sit with that with the person. But for me personally, being someone who sees behind the veil, which the more people say that to me, Dee, I'm still kind of shocked when I hear that because I'm like, you mean you don't? Like other people don't do that. So maybe it's a spiritual gift. I don't know. I believe we all have spiritual gifts. Maybe it's just, and I believe we all get the same spiritual gifts. So maybe it's just a gift that I cultivated, that I got really good at, kind of, type thing. But I really believe that um, it's about being discerning when we're talking with someone and not trying to fix anybody. We can't fix anybody. Nobody can fix us. It's an inside job. Yet we can deliver truth and wisdom to somebody. And if they want to accept it and implement it, great. And if they don't, that's okay too. It has nothing to do with our worth. It has to do with where they're at on their spiritual journey. And I had to learn that because in my younger years, I was like, this is the answer. And people wouldn't do it. They do the same thing over and over again. 3 years later, they're like, oh, Bob said this to me, the same thing I'd been saying for 3 years. And they're like, Bob's my hero. And I used to get egoically upset with that because I was like, because I wanted to be the one that was right. Then I realized this is not about me. Helping others is never about us. It's about meeting them where they're at. And I came to the conclusion that if I'm one brick in their wall of building their higher, connecting with their higher self and building their self-worth, if I'm just one brick, then I've done my job. I don't have to be that last brick where the wall is complete. That's not what I'm here for.
You've said so many good things. I'm making note.
Dee loves to make notes, guys. We were talking before this started, and he said, my 10,000 notes on my desk. And I said, you have no idea the notes I have, and I have to read through them and throw these away. I did that yesterday, so my desk is somewhat clean today, but I'm a big note taker myself, Dee.
I'm doing. I was gonna say I'm trying, but I'm trying is a word that I'm removing from my my what is it,
Vocabulary,
vocabulary. There's another word I was gonna use.
vernacular, vernacular.
Yeah, there's another word I was gonna use too. But you've just said two great words. Let's just keep it simple. Uh, yeah, I'm because I've been studying a lot of things about consciousness and rereading Conversations with God.
Oh,
And
good.
one of the things that God tells Neil in Conversations with God is don't say that you want something, because when you tell me what you want, the way the universe works is you're expressing desire for want. And
Mm,
want is always an implication of something that you don't have, something that you lack. So you're going to have more experiences of what you don't want. Instead, you have the desire, approach from the place of the desire is already fulfilled. Get into that energy and then it will come to you, and you're not in this place of trying to make it happen, and also not in this place of desperation. So I have been also applying that to the word try or trying, because try and trying imply lots of effort to get things to work out in a certain way. And so part of one of the things that's become a big part of my transformative process, especially being a writer, is becoming more aware of the words that I am using, the words that I'm writing, the words that I'm thinking, and what the power of these words is. There's a great writer that I'm sure you're familiar with, Florence Scovel Shinn. Um, she talks about this in The Game of Life and How to Play It, and your word is your wand. That's one of her big books.
mm,
And basically says, like, hey, we can look back in history, and these people that were considered witches, they just recognize something that all of us are doing on a regular basis. We're all casting spells
mm.
with our mouths and the
Yes.
words that we say. And when we are not aware of the power of these words, I mean, thought emits an energy frequency. The heart emits an energy frequency. Our words are expressions of both the heart and the mind. So being aware of this stuff is incredibly powerful. And with that, I mean, you and I getting to have this conversation here, and I appreciate so much you being um, so direct and also honest, and everything about your room, everything about your room right now, I think is uh, highlighted. Well, your light right now, and
Oh,
your light always, Kristen. Like I think that your room is extra lit also because you're in it. And so this space that I'm in right now is extra lit because you're in it. And I appreciate you and I love you so much.
I love you too, Dee. Thank you so much.
I appreciate so much Kristen Brown being our first ray of sunshine here on, well, this special presentation. And I'm going to make this a regular part of the week in showcasing and sharing with you guys beautiful people in my world who are making a massive difference in the world. If you want to know more about Kristen Brown, I encourage you to check out her website, which is kristenbrown.org. That's KRISTENBROWN.org. And if you are somebody who, like me, has experienced any form of people-pleasing codependency and or experienced the ramifications of that in your relationships, once again, I very highly recommend you picking up this book. It's available on Amazon. It's called The Recovering People Pleaser. All right, that's going to do it for us this time around. I appreciate you guys. If you want more from me and learning how to grow more love in your inner garden, please jump over to growthfarming.com. I've got a whole bunch of awesome stuff there for you, including some inspirational, enlightening, and uplifting short story novels and some self-help books, courses, coaching, community, and a whole lot more. Go check it out, growthfarming.com. Till next time, I appreciate you, I love you, and I'll see you again soon.